Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar on Enterprise Information Management for Governance and Reporting. My name is Julian Redmond. I'm the General Manager of Information and Insights at Certis.
And I'm James Hartright. I'm a Managing Consultant at Certis, working across financial services and other industries.
For today's webinar, we'll be talking about managing enterprise data and what roadblocks face the financial services industry, covering the changing regulations, compliance, and governance, looking at how Data Vault 2.0 might be able to help these, maybe some use cases and some benefits. We've made some information available in the links below, and of course you can contact James or myself. There's links below for that as well. Okay, James, let's have a bit of a chat about the changes to business and what we're seeing in the market with some of our customers. Obviously, compliance and regulatory reporting's changing and evolving. Some of our customers are talking about needing to provide wider data sets, trying to aggregate data from multiple sources, maybe ones that they've not touched before, increased regulation, changes to the way they need to submit the data. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the regulatory reporting looks at some key financial entities. So we're looking at customer, we're looking at products, we're looking at outstanding balance through to liquidity. And traditionally, in data warehousing or regulatory reporting, we'd go off and we'd get all of the data from the sources and put it into a standard data model. That standard data model means that we need to use ETL code. We have to map the data and transform it and get it into a data model that we can then report on. And auditability is a key piece there. We've got to show to the regulator, to the compliance side, that we've actually taken the real data, we've stored it, we've integrated it and presented the real truth of the data, the facts of what we've got as an organization and what governance we've applied to it. That's usually quite a major development task. And we're asking the developers to take this source data and orientate it and get it and fit it to this data model and start applying some of those business functions, business rules to explain the data that's being provided. Developers are historically really poor at strongly documenting the code, especially to the levels of compliance. So if we take our approach in the Data Vault side, what you start with is that you're taking those source systems and you're mapping it and connecting it to those key entities. We call them hubs in Data Vault. What it allows you to do is to connect that data to the hubs, but to keep the original source data as it's been supplied. That's eminently auditable as a great starting point for your regulatory reporting. It also follows standard patterns. That means that you've actually got standard coding mapping. There's no complex coding that has to go on by the developer. And since you're following standard coding patterns, you couldn't follow standard testing patterns. We can do this and we can land this and get that strong auditability very quickly. We have a recent banking client that we're working with at the moment that is building their new Data Vault solution. They did their first regulatory report, and the regulator came back and said, this is the highest auditability score we've seen across any of the financial services. That's the sort of the capability of the traceability that the Data Vault gives you out of the box. The next step is that bit. Probably the most important part of giving the sense of what the organization is doing, that's the integration part, where we're saying, hey, I've got all these source systems, but all of these entities are very similar. Here are products. I've got loan products, I've got credit card products, I've got transaction account products. All of that work of the standardization and the integration is done through business rules. So we're describing what formats we're applying, where we're trying to get to, say, a standard status code. Those are all done by business rules, and they're articulated and constructed on an attribute by attribute basis. So now we can very easily describe and classify what we're doing when we're transforming data. And again, a really important, valuable part of being able to say to the regulator, this is what we've done. So that's sort of the core of the Data Vault, of the mapping back to the source data, and having our auditability and really easily describing what we're doing with the business rules and testing and improving those business rules for a core compliance bit. It's a great end-to-end capability to get your first base in.
You know, one of the big topics that I've had conversations with is, what do you do when things change? When regulations change, when standards change, when data's changing at the source. How do you handle that?
Yeah. From a regulatory perspective, we see new and updated recommendations come through all the time. The regulators do tend to give you a reasonable amount of time to get yourself into line with those new things. But that's again where in the traditional model, because you've constructed your data according to that model, the ability to flex and change and extend, that's another area where you start to hit problems. You start having to sort of kludge the data in to get it to the new data to fit the new regulation, or you have to create a new view over the data, and now you've got two code bases running that are supposed to be working off the same base data. That's another big value of Data Vault. So I talked about the key entities. Data Vault allows you to extend the model. It was designed from the ground up to start at a base and extend. So if the regulation says, hey, there is a new entity type that we need here, some new detailed data that we need here, we can pretty much say the model that we've constructed stays the same, the granularity stays the same, the description of what that entity is stays the same, and we can add data to that model and just link the entities together in the way that they need to be for the reporting regulation. So from that perspective, being able to just grow as the capabilities of the requirements are needed, Data Vault was, as I say, designed from the ground up to do that. Probably the most, as you said, the most difficult one is the source system structure changes, or I've built a new product, or I've brought in a brand new system that's going to work on this product. That's where Data Vault really starts singing, because, as I said before, if we've got a new source system or a source system change, we just bring that new data in, and we map and connect it back to those entities, those hubs, and say, this is a new version of the data. We don't need to touch the existing data that's in there. That's already there, and we can go back and review the reports and recreate the reports if we want to on the existing data. And we can still we can fulfill that. We can say, here's the new version of the data, and we can create or extend those business rules to say, here's the old data, the new data, and this is our transform. And the great thing there about those business rules pieces is now we can also demonstrate the difference between the old way we were presenting and the new way we were presenting, the new way we are presenting. That's a really important thing from the regulation perspective, to say, right, this is what we were showing you before. We've brought in new things, or we've realized that there's something we didn't get the business rule quite right before. Here are the differences. Here's what we're going to be reporting from this point onwards, which is going to be more real, accurate, more business orientated. That's something that's really difficult, almost impossible to do in traditional data management. And it's something that's just sort of part of the methodology, part of the process in Data Vault. So yeah, the cost of getting the thing up and running is lower than traditional. But when you start getting into data change and new requirements, that's where Data Vault really starts outperforming. You know, we've had clients where the development time has been halved from the perspective of change, of building new things, regression testing and proving. That's really where the cost part, the development cost and the speed of development just beats out your traditional methods.
So what about data quality? APRA, obviously they have CPG 235, guidelines for managing the risk of data. Lots in there about data quality, around how to manage it, how to prioritize it. Does Data Vault help in that path at all?
Of course it does. I'll go back to those business rule patterns. So I talked where we're creating business rules where we're integrating data or transforming, deriving data. Well, we follow exactly the same principles in data quality. We're taking the data quality process and saying there are attributes that we're looking at that we basically want to track, look at, understand, and then track the data quality on. We can create a business rule that tests the quality conformance of each attribute or groups of attributes. And so we can build a business rule to run and test each of those attributes. And it's run as part of the process of having new data in. So you can see on a record by record basis where data isn't hitting the quality benchmark. You can take that. You can look back to those individual bad records. You could even go and find bad actors. Hey, this source system is doing really poorly at data capture. We need to go and hit them on the head and get them better and better through showing them that their data quality is bringing the organization benchmark down. Because we're doing this in a database format and we're looking at the bad records, we can actually use off-the-shelf stewardship tools. So we can say, here is a stewardship tool where it can look in at that data. We can point back to the source owner of that, and we can push those as alerts back to say to those source system owners, you need to remediate this data. You need to fix this. Even better, when they do fix it, that business rule process that's continually looking at new data is going to show, yeah, they resolved it. The business rule alert gets cleared once the source data comes back into compliance. That's another big positive for the regulator. If you've started looking at some data attributes and you know they're of poor quality, you can actually now report that to the regulator without fear, because what you can say is that you're putting processes in to fix it and improve it, and even each month show how you've improved through those business rules, through the stewardship process, how you're improving, and when you're going to get to the point where everything is sorted.
That sounds really good. So does that allow organisations to allocate the budget that they've set aside for dealing with data quality in the areas that actually need it and maybe get better effect? I know that there's a challenge. You can't have 100% data quality, clearly, and you can't have manual stewardship across all of your data. So it sounds like what you're talking about is that you can use a bit of prioritization maybe. The regulators are pretty clear that you need to take a risk-based approach to governing critical data, and monitor your organisation. So how would Datavault fit into that scenario?
Governance is an area that we commonly get called in to help out on, and you're correct. If somebody comes in and has a data quality tool, their natural position is to go and try and apply data quality across the board, across every attribute, and that way lies madness. So what we tend to do in these situations is look at critical business processes. We go, okay, what are the most important processes? Then we draw out what are the most important data entities, and then we get down what are the most critical data elements as part of your end-to-end process. As you said, in the case of regulators, they've actually given us a bit of a guide, a start in these are the entities that are important to us, and that's sort of inferring they should be important to you. So they've done some of that hard work, given us a guide on the data that we should be looking at. So the starting point is really to follow that. So take those entities and work out the critical data elements. Is it customer data that's important? Is it the transactional data and the outstanding risk that's important? Take some of those and go, as I say, go and apply those data quality business rules to those. Start with that in that prioritized method and grow it to as you need. You do need to take care because you're putting these data quality rules in and you're putting stewardship processes in. So you start talking about governance and stewardship. the source owners, the rest of the organization can actually be, hold on, I don't have enough people to deal with this. So we follow a process called non-invasive data governance. It's a recognized business process, and it's a way of building up an organization to look at that data governance process in a way that is value-based and risk-based. So there's a thread that goes through the organization that says, yes, we started from the regulation and compliance perspective, but what we're doing this we're doing this in a way that improves our overall business, improves our understanding of where our risk lies, and shows the importance of good data quality on certain attributes through to the source owners and the people that are actually capturing that data. Once you've set up that core set of governance, you are going to still find lots of areas where there are a lot of data quality areas that you need to remediate. So the next step is to start prioritizing that. So follow the risk-based approach, follow the regulatory approach, follow the business criticality approach, and start acting on those attributes in that order. That allows you to work through and get the highest, most critical issues resolved. In putting those data quality processes in place, though, it doesn't stop. Even if you say, hey, I've solved 100% of the problems in these critical things, source systems keep on changing, staff turnover, business processes change. So the real benefit here is that those data quality processes that you've put in are continually monitoring your data. They're basically supervising to ensure that your business is still on track for those critical data elements. So it's running in the background as new data is coming through and updates are coming through. It can quickly highlight and report if anything's going off kilter. And again, this is from a trust perspective of your internal processes, but in an inherent trust through to the regulators that you're starting to highlight where if something is going wrong, that again, you're putting processes in to fix it. You've got a new area where something is affecting data quality, you've spotted it, and you're reacting to it in as fast a mode that you can, probably more proactively than a regulator might inform you a month, 2 months, 3 months later. So this getting the data quality and governance process set up is just a really strong continual business monitoring process that's just running in the background for you.
Wow. So we've covered off acquisition of data and dealing with change and the governance processes and the data quality processes and mapping that to what the regulator's asking for. So kind of feels like we're answering most of the problems and most of the challenges here. So is there anything else you want to tell me about Data Vault?
Yeah, I think I'll reiterate that there's some real strengths to the Data Vault process, and that first piece of saying I've got 100% ability to map back to source and show auditability. I've got an ability to describe and create and test complex business rules in a repeatable fashion. I've got a standard way to build out and push through data quality and stewardship. And that's done in a really repeatable, really standard patternized form that doesn't need tons of developers and complexity to build, operate, and keep. So the extensibility as new and updated products come in, new source systems come in, new regulations come in. This is all done without needing major redevelopment or regression testing. So your eventual result is a stronger business and cheaper methods of your DevOps system. So go and look at that Data Vault process and come and ask us, and we can walk you through and show you and talk to you through some real client examples how they've made these great strides forward in improving their databases and improving their regulatory reporting.
Thanks, James. That was great. What a good discussion about managing enterprise information and matching that up with the regulatory and compliance reporting that's required by our financial sector customers. We've made some information available in the links below, and of course, if you'd like to get in contact and have a bit more of a conversation, the links are there as well. So thanks for joining us today.